London is one of the world's 10 great cities, and it's a perfect blending of the past and the present. A city with so many places to visit that you could never find the time to view them all. Samuel Johnson was right when he said that when someone is tired of London, he is tired of life. Here's the Westminster Bridge on the River Thames. It's a great city to walk in, as there are no hills to negotiate on foot. And the best starting point is near the Parliament Buildings and Westminster Bridge, with its views of the Parliament Buildings and Big Ben. With a population of almost 9 million people, London is Europe's biggest city, spreading over an area of more than 900 square miles from its core on the River Thames. This is where the country's news and money is made, and if Londoners' sense of superiority causes some resentment in other parts of England, it is undeniable that London has a unique aura of excitement and success. There are dozens of bridges over the Thames near London's core, but a walk along the Thames for just a couple miles takes you by several of the most important ones. Here is Waterloo Bridge, Blackfriars Bridge, and Southwark Bridge. The world-famous outline of Tower Bridge shows its two functions. The lower span opens in the center to let tall ships through, while pedestrians climb the stairs in the towers to cross the river by the high walkway. The Tower Bridge has long symbolized the City of London to people around the world. It's the gateway to the capital for ships coming upriver to dock in the port, and it is the first bridge over the Thames coming upriver from the east. Ships are not required to wait. The road traffic on the bridge must give way to the traffic on the river. The Tower of London marks the eastern extent of the Old City. It's usually thought of as a place of imprisonment and death, but has variously been used, though, as an armory, royal residence, and a repository of the crown jewels. And not far from the Tower of London is the spectacular King's Cross Station, where thousands of people grab subways and trains every day. The City of London and the financial district. London is not a city with a single center. The money markets are here in the eastern part of the inner core, in the district known as the City of London. There are some very striking examples of modern business architecture here. Once the fortified heart of the capital, the City of London is now the financial district. And this is St. Paul's Cathedral. The Great Fire of London, almost 300 years ago, led to an era of great rebuilding in the City of London. The 17th century of rebuilding produced the area's finest structure, St. Paul's Cathedral. The Baroque design of St. Paul's Cathedral is fronted by a double-story colonnaded portico flanked by towers. The statue of Queen Victoria holds sway near the entrance of the cathedral. Inside are the resting places of the famous, like Christopher Wren, Turner, Reynolds, the Duke of Wellington, Lord Nelson, and many other famous Brits. The stock market, the Bank of England, Mansion Hall, they stand here in the financial heart of the city. Mansion Hall is the work of George Dance the Elder. It's a heavy building of Portland stone in Palladian style. Its facade bears a portico of 6 immense Corinthian columns on a rusticated base. Thousands of students from around the world come to London each semester to enjoy a unique study abroad experience. One such campus is here in Richmond in the Kensington Park area. Students can savor London's history, literature, and arts in person and on site. And students often come to this place, the Tate Gallery, to study. It contains a national collection of British art from the 16th century onwards, and an international display of modern art. The Tate Gallery has a massive stock of 20th century pieces, and the modern collection is rehung every 9 months to ensure a decent airing of the whole range of paintings. Certain names survive every rearrangement, however, because you're going to find Picasso, Matisse, Degas, Miro, and Jackson Pollock. During a recent visit, I enjoyed many paintings by such American painters as Sargent and Whistler. The Tate Gallery, well worth a visit, one of the best in England. And this is Westminster Abbey, founded in the 8th century. Since William the Conqueror onwards, all royal funerals, most coronations, have happened inside Westminster Abbey. Many of the nation's most famous citizens are honored here too. St. James Park. Contrary to many expectations, London is a very green city with sizable parks right in the center. St. James Park here is the oldest of the royal parks, and it's also the smallest and most ornamental. Here are the gates of Buckingham Palace. And nearby at Whitehall is the site of a concentration of government buildings. The 2 guardsmen posted in front on Horse Grounds Parade are famously quite unruffled by the crowds of tourists. The hubs of political and royal London, Parliament and Buckingham Palace are surprisingly not that close together. And here again is Buckingham Palace. It served as the monarch's permanent residence since the accession of Queen Victoria. The building's exterior, remodeled in 1913, is, as some critics say, as bland as it's possible to be. Buckingham Palace, however, has been open to the public since 1993 for 2 months of the year. Crowds assemble here around 11 a.m. each day to watch the always popular changing of the guard. The most important role of the monarchy is to represent the 4 component parts of the United Kingdom. Those 4 parts are, of course, England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. And across from Buckingham Palace is this Green Park, easily one of my favorite parks in the city. It's situated right in between Buckingham Palace and Piccadilly Circus. And here's Piccadilly Circus. Piccadilly Circus is hectic throughout the day. Its tarmac choked with cars and buses, its facades lurid with colossal neon ads. There's always a crowd of wide-eyed sightseers and, more desperate cases, around the statue. And this is the statue of Eros, as it's called now, although originally it was called the Angel of Charity. The Royal Academy. Sir Joshua Reynolds was the first president of England's oldest society devoted to the fine arts, the Royal Academy of Arts. Burlington House by Shepherd Market has been home to the Royal Academy for more than a century. This building has a Palladian interior. This academy was founded in 1768 to teach fine arts and holds an annual exhibition of art every summer. The Antiques area and Bond Street. The Arcade, built in 1879, became royal 3 years later with the permission of Queen Victoria, who shopped here. Each shop has its own bay rising up to the glass roof at the top. There are expensive jewelry shops and other boutiques here, but they sit side by side with some kind of kitsch souvenir coffee mugs and t-shirts. St. Martin in the Fields. James Gibbs' stately early 18th century church occupies the western side of Trafalgar Square. This is the National Gallery on the north side of Trafalgar Square. It contains one of the world's great art collections. Here you'll find a vast range of paintings from Raphael to Botticelli, from Titian to Velázquez, from Goya to Rembrandt, and David to Cézanne and Monet, all here at the National Gallery. Trafalgar Square. The huge traffic island of Trafalgar Square is dominated by Nelson's Column, a vast pillar topped with a statue of Admiral Horatio Nelson. This grand square has been a traditional place for public meetings ever since 1848. Many political marches end here with rallies at which speakers usually address the crowds from the base of the column. 4 huge lions, designed by Victorian painter Landseer, guard the column's base. 2 adjacent fountains provide a magnet for overheated sightseers during the summer. And here's Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. Also called the Palace of Westminster, these grand buildings stand on the site of the palace that was the seat of the English kings for 5 centuries. Though they look older, these current buildings were constructed in the mid-1800s after a fire devastated the original palace. It's a mix of Gothic and Elizabethan styles, a mass of pinnacles and tracery. The clock tower, known around the world, Big Ben, is 320 feet high. Big Ben is, of course, the name applied to this tower, but it is in fact the name of its main bell. The Houses of Parliament. The British Parliament is composed of 2 houses, the House of Lords and the House of Commons, and the members of which are elected by the public. London's restaurant and theatre district. Leicester Square is liveliest at night, with people on their way to its cinemas, its theatres, cafes, pubs, and restaurants. The writer Jan Morris has said, "More than any other city in Europe, London is a show, living by bluff and display. People have always remarked upon its theatrical nature. It is surprisingly a very volatile capital." The U.S. ambassador recently diagnosed it as manic depressive. On top of the world one day, all despondency the next. There are a number of major theaters in the neighborhood of the Strand, such as the Savoy Theatre, the Vaudeville Theatre, the Fortune Theatre, and the Adelphi. But as a visitor to London, you almost always find you're working your way back to Piccadilly Circus, and especially in the early evening. The writer W.U. Weatherby wrote, "One goes to London at last as Americans go to New York, to experience the shock of vitality from so many millions living together and to see the country in a melting pot." And another writer, James Boswell, wrote, "The passion of the crowds is nowhere feasted so full as in London." And here is Piccadilly Circus in the summer evening, when the crowds come out to enjoy this free, open-air, people-watching entertainment. And surprisingly, for a city that is so huge, for the visitor, there is only a few square blocks downtown by the River Thames where you want to spend most of your time. And in the evening, you're going to probably go to Piccadilly Circus and also to Trafalgar Square to see the buildings beautifully lit. The poet William Butler Yeats wrote, "This melancholy London, I sometimes imagine that the souls of the lost are compelled to walk through its streets perpetually. One feels them passing like a whiff of air."